Greetings and welcome. How are we all feeling today? None of us like being used, none of us like being exploited, and none of us like to always agree with everyone all the time. The thing is, we need to set boundaries, but in a healthy way, not allowing people to walk all over us, but also not caging ourselves behind this concrete huge wall. Boundaries are very, very important for your own well-being. When we don't set boundaries, people tend to take advantage of that. They see you as someone who's a bit more vulnerable, and people who don't have boundaries end up becoming people pleasers because they cannot set themselves up for self-respect, and that's the problem that comes with not setting boundaries in the right way. Is you can actually end up getting really hurt, or you can end up being very used and exploited and abused, and we all know how uncomfortable it is to set a boundary. It's one of the most uncomfortable things. When someone says something or does something that just doesn't resonate with us at all, and we find it actually to be quite disrespectful. And that's where you have to draw your line. Everyone has a line, everyone has a limit. And if you keep allowing people to cross that the whole time, you are setting yourself up for abuse and exploitation. Because people like manipulators and psychopaths, they tend to prey on people who are a little bit more vulnerable, because it's easier to get what they want out of that person who relies on them emotionally, who is very codependent as well. So boundaries are it's a difficult concept. It's difficult to get your mind around, because a lot of the time when we don't have self-respect, we don't see if anything is okay for us, if things are okay for us, if things are not okay for us. We can't tell within ourselves because we have not set boundaries. We have not really looked at increasing our self-respect and increasing our own standards for ourselves. When you don't do that, your boundaries become porous. That means that if someone says something but you have a boundary against it and they convince you a little bit, then you kind of like, yeah, actually, you know what, let me do it. Even though it completely goes against all your values, all your core values and what you stand for and what you believe. It's very easy to get lost in the moment and give in when other people are tempting you and other people are trying to convince you. It's very difficult not to fall victim to that. It's very difficult to set that boundary and say, I'm not going to do this because I don't believe that it's good for me or it's good for my health. So it's very important that when you do set boundaries, that you first and foremost understand what is okay for you and what is not okay for you. And someone who really respects you will respect your boundaries, will apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was crossing a line. But people like manipulators and sociopaths and psychopaths, they turn that around back onto you and they point the finger at you. And that's why it's really hard to set boundaries when you're in a toxic relationship, because you get so codependent and you get so attached to that person emotionally that when they're in a bad mood, you're in a bad mood. And it's very difficult to set that boundary with a partner and say, you are in a bad mood, I support you, but I'm not going to allow that to put me in a bad mood. And we get so easily convinced when we're in the moment and it's hyped up and we're all excited and it's all looking great, and we give in because our boundaries are too porous. We don't realize that Boundaries are there to keep you safe, to keep you healthy, to keep you well, to keep your integrity and your self-respect. Boundaries are something that we have to set with everyone about the things that are not okay for us. And yes, you have to set boundaries with everyone, and more boundaries with specific people who tend to cross the line a lot or cross the line too much. Then you want to be more firm in your boundaries when someone is trying to convince you to leave your boundary or to cross your boundary. And that could be a very dangerous thing, and it's so easy to get manipulated like that. So, as I said, boundaries are important for your safety and your well-being. If someone is doing something and they're trying to convince you to do the same thing, but you can see that it's not really a good idea, set that boundary, say no. Be authoritative but also respectful at the same time, because sometimes people get excited, they're in the moment, and then they don't realize something that they said could have been unacceptable or not okay. There are two types of boundaries: rigid and porous boundaries. Rigid boundaries stop you from creating connections because you are stuck behind that concrete wall, and it also prevents the furthering depth of your relationships. So if your boundaries are too strong and your boundaries are too solid, you're going to find it difficult to engage with other people, to socialize, to deepen your connections, and you might find yourself entertaining very superficial connections, and that's because your boundaries are way too rigid. On the other hand, porous boundaries means you allow people to convince you, manipulate you, and use you, because in the moment it sounds like a good decision, or you're pressured and there's a consequence if you don't cross your boundary. And that's where toxicity breeds. It's important that you set your boundaries with everyone, with the things that you do not find acceptable in your life. Your yes and your no could have a greater impact on your life than you may think in the moment. In the moment, it's okay, it's yes, let's do it, it's awesome. But an hour later, a day or two later, a week later, you start regretting it, and you start thinking, why didn't I set that boundary? So it's important that you understand that your yes or your no can determine the rest of your life. Be careful with your decisions. Be careful who you allow to be around you, because not everyone respects boundaries. And it's important that you surround yourself with people who do respect boundaries. Your yes and your no could have a much greater impact than you could ever thought. And that's why it's important to use your wise mind, which is your logical and your creative, your emotional mind. And you find a balance between that so that you know how to keep your self-respect and your integrity, but also respectfully saying no. Respectfully declining it's okay. You are more than welcome to do that anytime you want. If it's not okay for you, if you don't feel comfortable with it, if you know it's going to cause issues, or it's going to cause problems, or it's going to cause harm, set that boundary. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. But also, don't scare people off with your boundaries. Let people in. Set respectful, healthy boundaries. Otherwise, you're not going to make connections, and you're going to struggle in your relationships. Remember, boundaries are meant to protect you and reinforce respect. That's a big thing, is reinforcing respect. That's what a boundary does. A boundary enforces the fact that I respect you and what's not okay for you, and you respect me and what's not okay for me. It's not meant to lock you away, to keep you prisoner and away from the world. Your boundaries have a bigger impact on your life than you may think. Don't let anyone convince you of anything otherwise. that's your boundary. That's your own autonomy, your own ability to say yes or no. So remember, you are unique and valuable. Take care of that beautiful person. Stay strong wherever you're from. You are worthy.